Singapore, the reputation is that Singaporeans work very hard. It's a good place to earn money. So if you're not willing to do it, there's a Malaysian that'll do it, there's a Vietnamese that'll do it, there's an Indonesian that'll do it.
This guy here is Wei Choon. He is one of the founders for the Woke Salaryman. They draw comic strips. Even Lee Hsien Loong, the Prime Minister of Singapore, actually shared their comic strips on his own personal Facebook page. So, Wei Choon,
Yes.
how long have you all been doing Woke Salaryman?
So we started this as a side hustle. We had a 9 to 5 job that we'll go to. Then we would come back home from work and then work on the Woke Salaryman. And we started doing this at about 2019.
2019.
We went full time in 2020.
You shared with me earlier that you came to Singapore when you were 7 years old. Yeah, can you tell me more about that?
When I was 7 years old, my mum shoved me on a bus at 4 a.m. in the morning. Honestly, I didn't know much else. So actually, it's not that jarring. It's just at the first day, it was very jarring. So I was crying Then my mum put me on the bus and said, no, I'll follow behind the car. Then okay, is it? So when I was on the bus, I crossing custom and all, I just kept looking, thinking that she's in the back somewhere, but she wasn't. She just told me that. It was jarring, but after that, you just get used to it. And I never thought it was very extreme because it's not just me on one bus, it's a whole bunch of kids all from Malaysia, all going to Singapore. This is a very normal thing. So I had peers and I had friends that also took the bus with me and stuff. So it didn't seem abnormal. The only sort of difference came when I compared myself with my Singaporean friends. I had a friend who lived literally opposite the school, and I'm like, why does this dude get to wake up at 7:10 and can reach school at 7:20? How does he do that? And why do I have to wake up at 4 a.m, go Malaysia checkpoint, get off, check passport, get on again, cross causeway, then get off at Singapore custom, check passport, then get on again, then get to the school? Why do I have this extra thing? But also because there are other people doing it with me, it's not that weird. I think a funny part was, I remember there was a really bad jam one time, and some of the Malaysian buses came in a bit later, so I was already in school at the time, assembly already over, and the announcement came on in class. It was halfway through class, teachers, please take note, the Malaysians are coming, and it sounded like there's an invasion or something.
Do you think working culture in Malaysia and Singapore are different?
I don't know. I think in Singapore, the reputation is that Singaporeans work very hard. Because there are all these polls that say, Singaporeans very stressed in the world. And also, Singapore is a place that is a good place to earn money. So if you're not willing to do it, there's a Malaysian that'll do it, there's a Vietnamese that'll do it, there's an Indonesian that'll do it.
Yeah.
Probably cheaper than you. There's always a long queue of people behind you that is willing to do your thing if you're not willing to do it. So if you want to take a sabbatical, you want to take a break, you better plan it properly.
Would you actually send your kids to Singapore at such a young age as 7 years old?
100% yes. It starts with education, because education is the first step actually in self-investment, is investing in yourself. And what my parents did when they sent me here was that they helped me to invest in myself, because I was able to get a more standardized education and I had a higher likelihood of turning out to be employable and useful to society as a result of that. I strongly think that that's the case. I don't think I'll be where I was if I didn't come to Singapore to study. The idea of me from young being woken up at 4 a.m. every day, going home at 9 p.m. every day, has made me very independent and very hardy when it comes to doing work and bearing and tahaning very difficult situations. And I think I would do that for my kid also. So like you said, the one takeaway or some of the flip side is that you don't spend as much time with family. But all in all, I would still do it if it was my choice to make. So thank you, mom and dad.
So far we have talked quite a lot about how Singapore is much more efficient, much more better place, education and stuff like that.
Yep.
But for the sake of being fair, I think no country is perfect, right?
Of course.
So what is it about Singapore that you think you don't like or can be improved? And in the case of Malaysia, it can be better in this sense.
So in Singapore, I think things can be a bit sterile, but this is also, I think, a trade-off of having such a good standardized education system. People here can be very prone to being very grades-based. As a result, Singaporeans are very stressed, even from a student age, to do well in exams and stuff.
Right.
I don't think that's a great thing, and I think as a result of that also, Singaporeans also are a little bit less likely to be risk takers.
That's right.
So when I go to Malaysia, for example, I've thought about, what if I was to retire in Malaysia? It would be a very nice thing to do, and I might actually do it because I can buy a house much more affordably, I can drive a car much more affordably. Also, the lifestyle-wise, I can be a bit more bohemian. I can choose to do projects and switch projects a bit more easier.
What is your advice for people who are thinking about leaving their country?
Whether you're a parent or a child considering to do it, right, the cost is immense. It is not just I lack time away from my family. It is that I'm not as close as I could be in terms of also just talking to them. In terms of the sensibilities of how we communicate, it is harder for me because I grew up outside since I was 7 years old. It is not something that I regret because I'm able to see the good that has come out of it. The family connection is so important. I don't know how this thing would end. I don't know by the end of it, when my parents pass, whether that status is something I'll be okay with. And I think I'll be okay with it because they chose this for me. They chose it for me, and when I accepted it also, and in hindsight, me accepting it now, I don't truly understand also what the cost is at the end of the line. Then going back to reality and objectivity, the arbitrage situation in Singapore and Malaysia is so vast and immense that I think it's still worth it. You know, it's still worth it to come here and earn Singapore money. Then maybe what will be on the other side is when you can afford it, maybe then you pay money to have a closer relationship. Whether that is owning a car, that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Whether I should buy a car in Singapore so I can drive back to Malaysia, spend more time with them. Costs a lot of money, but maybe it's worth it because this kind of thing money cannot replace. Actually, one of the best gifts that I got from my parents was that they let me go. And that also comes down financially because they don't need me to support them. Because they have handled their retirement or they are handling their retirement themselves. I don't have to pay them every month some amount of money, and that really allows me to chase my dreams. I don't think I would have started the Woke Salaryman if I have an additional $500 of expense every month to give to my parents. In sort of letting go of me, financially and also distance geographically, and also the idea that they don't need this child around them every week, I feel like that's actually also, in a weird, contradictory, roundabout way, one of the greatest gifts that they have given me.
I guess end of the day, there's no real good and bad because you never know until the story carry you there. Generally, you never know where it turns out to be.
But I'll say right now, it's pretty good so far. That's all I can.
So, thank you very much, Wei Choon. We'll see you next time.